All right. So, good morning, everyone. So we were just talking about, yesterday's storm. I hope everyone is faring okay after all the wind and rain. Um, so this is our, second meeting of the Needham Biosafety Committee. We've got a pretty full agenda because we had 3 applicants since we met last, which is exciting. And we're going to review them in the order that they were submitted to our office via the online portal system. And the materials that we don't get to today, we will review on our next meeting, Thursday, January 4th at 9 a.m. If that still works for everybody, I'll make sure to send that Zoom information out after. I didn't want us to get confused with multiple sets of Zoom information. First order of business is public comment. I do see someone on from Evolved by Nature. So if we have any questions for them, we can speak to Jason. But otherwise, I don't see anyone else on. So we will move on to the next item on the agenda. Oh, I actually do want to highlight that, and this is for anyone who may watch this recording at any point in time, that we have an email, biosafety@needhamma.gov, where public comment can be sent on top of being sent to the Public Health Division office. So next up is a discussion of Needham Public Health Division staff roles on the committee. This whole thing is a learning process for us. So currently, as we have it now, Sai and I sort of receive the materials via this online portal system. And based on when people submit things, we'll review them and reach out to you for a meeting, a doodle to make a meeting and then a Zoom. But everything currently is going through our assistant director, Tiffany, because Sai and I can't reach out to you because we're voting members and we don't want to break any open meeting law rules. So we kind of realized that this is more steps than it needs to be. So Sai and I had a discussion about potentially sort of removing ourselves as voting members of the committee. And then we would be able to communicate with you directly. So there wouldn't have to be a, hello, Tiffany, can you please pass this information on to the committee? And we'd be able to communicate a little more readily back and forth and receive even comments ahead of the meeting, compile them, things like that. So Sai and I discussed removing ourselves as voting members, but that would leave it as a 3-person committee, Justin, Ed, and John, with you 3 as the voting members. So before we made any decisions, we wanted to see sort of what your thoughts on that are, or if you felt more comfortable with a 5-person committee, we could certainly do some looking around to find 2 more members to join. Any thoughts?
So I mean, this is strictly based on experience. I sit on 5 committees right now. Agendas and logistics are not a violation of open meeting law.
Right.
If there was discussion, if you were to say, we want to discuss, something in not even that, like, I don't know. I don't see in anything that Tiffany has sent out that if it was you would be considered a violation of open meeting law. I get it though, but we can certainly, the end result is certainly, I don't think there's an issue between 3 and 5 from a vote perspective. So I could go either way, but my understanding is that it would not be a violation of open meeting law as long as it's strictly kept to agendas and scheduling and agenda setting.
Okay, and that's
Yeah, I think Justin's right.
right. Okay, and that absolutely works. I think the area where we were concerned was that in sending out the materials, if there were any sort of responses back or any desire to have a some sort of compilation of responses or comments ahead of time. I'm fine to I guess Sai and I will have to, we can rediscuss, Sai, if you feel strongly sort of one way or the other. If that's not a desire that we have to ever have us sort of review and compile things ahead of time, and we feel it's fine for us to just send out the items and discuss them as they come at the meeting.
You can, just so you know, I mean, you can just as long as we don't hit reply all,
Right.
I can actually reply to you and
Mhm.
get clarification, as long as it's not hit reply all, because that then
Mhm.
constitutes a quorum member, a group of quorum, having conversations. So you could even put at the top of the email, and I've done this in subject lines, please don't hit reply all. Not everyone listens, but anyways, because I don't think they read the email. But nonetheless, that's a way to make sure that we're compliance with the open meeting law. But
Yeah, I think if we're all just really careful about this and maybe send out everything as like blind copies instead of like CCing or just emailing everybody at once, I think it will alleviate that. But I think we're all like can be careful about this and kind of do it that way. I
Mhm.
think the other concern I have is that like I'm pretty like booked with the amount of like I have a lot of things going on and I'm not able to review materials fully. So I mean I'm okay staying on the board and like commenting as my role as an inspector as a staff member, but like I'm like pretty novice level of understanding all this. I'm starting to get a grasp of it, and I'm spending time looking at it. But I'm not like at a level. I'm not a PhD. I'm not an expert at this stuff. So I could just say that, but I'm okay saying. I think Julie and I can discuss this further, like separately, maybe, and seeing if I understand like the administrators, like the way that we've kind of documented and sent out things, it's not a breach of open meeting law, whatever Tiffany has said in the past. So I think we could continue staying on the board, but Julie and I could discuss if she has strong feelings of kind of removing herself as a voting member. I think I should as well to try to keep it as an odd number board.
Okay.
Yeah, we're certainly being over precautious here with it. I think we're taking sort of extreme steps to make sure that we're not violating anything. Um, yeah, I think Sai and I, regardless of sort of what the outcome is, Sai and I would still continue to come to the meetings. And I think I would still remain in this role of sort of guiding the discussion of the meeting, because I think that's really the annoying part is the discussion that I think sometimes takes a lot of, as a committee member, can take a lot of effort to go through things and review and then have to kind of guide everyone's discussion. But yeah, if anyone has strong feelings one way or another, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to let us know, because if there was more comfort in having a 5-person committee, I certainly understand that.
I think for me, aside from a lot of the considerations that have already been raised, it kind of makes sense for me to have the inspector be a voting member, like whoever's going to be doing the on-site things. That's kind of like an incredibly critical part of this, because at the end of the day, they can write whatever they want in a very boilerplate copy paste biosafety protocol manual. Oh yeah, we're wearing PPE, sure, but when you get in there, it's very clear that they're not. They might not even have lab coats on site, right? So I don't know. That would be my preference, I think. But that person can inform everyone else of how it went, I guess. But that just seems like a critical aspect of this process.
No, I think that's a great point. So maybe Sai and I, we'll stick with things as we have them right now, and then if there are any glitches or we discover it doesn't work as it is, we can rediscuss. Or Sai, if you feel strongly one way or another, we can find a way to incorporate your feedback or something like that. But maybe for now we'll leave it as is. All right. Next item is follow-up items from Candell. Are there any sort of questions or concerns on their materials? I know I passed along via Tiffany some information that I received from them. They did recently have sort of a large reduction in their workforce, which has modified their activities greatly, it sounds. But I wanted to make sure that we felt okay about all of the materials and information we received from them.
Yeah, that was wildly helpful in contextualizing what they actually do and the scale and all of that. So yeah, no concerns at this point.
Great.
I echo that. Same thing.
I agree. I agree.
Okay,
Same
great.
here. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. All right. So then we will move on to our first of the 3 applications. So this is Evolved by Nature. I tried to compile everything into one PDF of all of the materials, and this time tried to include sort of the cover page from the online application, which gives also some of the contact information for the company. Anyone have any sort of initial thoughts, comments, concerns? Like I said, we do actually have a member of Evolved by Nature here, so if we have any questions, we can certainly ask him.
Similar questions that we followed up with Candel, I think would be helpful, like scale, what actual activities. I mean, as far as the actual like biological list, this is probably, you know, on a spectrum ranges towards more serious with Staph aureus. I mean, there's a bunch of BL2 like actual pathogens on here. Salmonella. I tried to peer at their website and understand kind of what was going on, if it's like novel antibiotic development, if this is all really small scale or what, or how it's being used with human tissue explants, which is also in the biological list, but there's really no context for actual use case and or scale, which was hard to decipher.
So I think I tried to get some of that information in, let's see, let me try to find the page that this is. Adobe is not working very well. It starts with microbiological quality control activities at the top. What is that, page 17?
Yeah, they discuss sort of the scale, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm realizing it. I should put some sort of a cover page to that because I think it sort of just slipped in the middle of 2 other documents.
Okay, I've got it. I think I lost it again.
I see. I think I saw quality control activities and I skipped it. Yeah, I'll read these for a second.
No worries.
Question, this was not necessarily about the applicant, but about our procedure. Obviously in the emergency guide, which is, I'm a little biased because that's what I key in more to that. We list the key contacts. Do we plan to put those in a database that's accessible by fire department, police department, by you guys, in case there was some sort of event that either in the emergency operations center or in the police department? You know, I know they have a database of contacts, just to verify and we make sure that these emergency contacts are in there.
I think that's a great thought. And I don't know that I don't know what the level of coordination is with these labs with, direct sort of communication with fire and police. So we can do that and reach out to fire and police and see if they have this information. And if they don't, then we can continue to provide it to them as we get these applications. That's a great idea.
Perfect.
I think that's very important to do that. Because in an emergency, you got to move fast.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
also, we should maybe inform them that like there's multiple biotech companies in one location, one building. So like,
Right.
and different contacts for each of the laboratories. So that it could be made clear to them as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. And I think that this is the sort of the perfect instance of, let's not make assumptions that other people have this information. So yeah, we will reach out to both police and fire and make sure that they have this.
You could even, if you wanted to hit both, or yes, give them the contacts, but you could even have the LEPC just review this section of the document. I said that's one of my other committees I sit on, but just to get eyes on it. And you obviously then you have police and fire and public health and all the major departments that are at least aware of it. And that is, I think it's even in the purview of the LEPC.
Yep. Okay, that's great. Yep, we have some people in our department on there, so that's great.
Yes, I know Tim kind of co-chairs that too. So
yes. All right. John, I don't know if you have any thoughts after reviewing the sort of that section.
Yeah, that was very helpful. Thanks for pointing that out. I think most of it's covered, especially like the recombinant protein expression, a lot of the rest of it makes sense. I'm still a little bit curious, like what the actual pathogens are being used for. The scale's nice. I mean, 2 liters is, not massive, but it's still kind of unclear like what they're for. It doesn't really matter that much as long as it's small scale and it's all being handled as per the biosafety manual, but that's, I guess, more just my curiosity.
We can certainly ask. Jason, I don't know if you are paying attention on this meeting, but if you are, I can allow you to talk. I don't know if you want to raise your hand if you are paying attention. Okay, great.
I'll raise my hand.
Thanks, Jason.
Problem. Basically what it's used for is research and development we make a product called activated silk, which is basically silk proteins from the silk cocoon. And it's research and development as to what we can continue to do with silk. What we're using it for currently is hand soap, skincare, creams. So the tissue stuff is to see how the silk will react with the tissue for different product formulations that we're making.
And potential like antimicrobials. Like I'm just curious where like the staph and the Pseudomonas and the Salmonella,
Correct.
like okay,
Antimicrobial.
okay. So it's mostly like inhibition assay, like small scale inhibition assays and things like that.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Does anyone else have any other questions for Jason while we have him on? All right. Thanks so much, Jason. That was very helpful.
Thank you.
All right. So perhaps this is, I think this is such a learning process over time, but, maybe this is something that is helpful for us in the future is like when possible to have someone from the company here to answer our questions.
Mhm.
I know some municipalities have the committees give sort of a presentation to the Biosafety Committee. Some don't, some involve the company, some don't involve the company at all. And we kind of just threw ourselves in and figured we would see what happened. And I think Cy and I actually spoke a while back about, if it was at all helpful to have the companies come when possible. So maybe that's something in the future we'll make a real effort as soon as we have a meeting scheduled to let them know so that someone may be available to actually just directly answer our questions. And that way we don't have to have a later follow-up with them.
Yeah, I like that idea just because, yes, it's exactly the reason that you stated that, just like we did with Candel, that we could have probably wrapped everything up if someone was there, that in that initial meeting without having to follow up. I know some of the stuff was procedural within the committee itself, but some of the specifics that were furnished later, I think is a good idea to have somebody available.
Yeah.
I like a presentation, but that's just me.
I think some of the applications that we receive actually have PowerPoints in them of sort of presentations to us. So I don't know. I don't think they would mind probably giving it. We can throw the option out there. Any more sort of comments, questions, concerns about Evolved by Nature?
I didn't have any. I mean, I think their emergency procedures, their bloodborne pathogen sections all seem to be fine. Boilerplate to some extent. Yeah, I didn't have any other specifics.
Great. And I think to sort of the earlier point, Cy and I are kind of working out the logistics of inspections. I know Cy has a lot of inspections right now for the end of the year, but we're trying to kind of come up with a checklist and figure out what the sort of set sort of list of things will be for these inspections. But I think those will also be helpful to go out because, you know, as was stated earlier, you can write everything down, but it doesn't mean that you're doing it in practice. So, some of these things, I think it will be great to go into the labs and just sort of verify that these practices are actually happening. And that maybe there is knowledge within the company that there is a bloodborne pathogens manual and people know what to do in the case of an emergency or a prick with a sharp or something like that. So I think that will be useful.
And
Yeah,
just confirming that they have biosafety cabinets that are working, that are inspected, like that they're working underneath them. They have proper signage up, just like normal, like basic things. And like if we see indications of like some of these things are not present, it kind of would indicate that they're like falling behind on other aspects of safety precautions and stuff like that.
yeah. I mean, you should on that checklist and whatever, however you formulate that checklist. I mean, obviously, I'd like to see kind of how that is, so that we can kind of make sure that everything's addressed. But like looking at the certificates on the biosafety, you know, their inspection certificates that they need to from VHB or whoever is their certifier, making sure that it's up to date. And you know, I think those are really important things, especially with, you know, the importance of that.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. You know, I think when we come up with this, we can kind of come up with a draft checklist and maybe bring it to the committee and have you guys look through it, see if there's anything we want to add or if we're being too nitpicky or something like that. Okay, so if we don't have any other questions or concerns about Evolved by Nature, then I think we can, I don't remember what language we used.
Make a motion to.
Sai, do you remember what we're calling this? Because you're the one who officially approves it in the system.
Oh, it's called a
Recommend for approval, I think.
Yeah, should I make a motion about this?
You can make a motion.
Okay. I move to conditionally approve this biotechnology permit for Evolve by Nature, pending not pending any yeah, I just moved to approve the biotechnology permit for Evolve by Nature for 2024.
Seconded.
All right, we will do roll call vote. We'll start with, I'll go in order on my screen. Sai.
Aye.
Justin.
Aye.
Ed.
Yes.
John.
Aye.
Julie. Aye. Okay, great. Next up is, let's see, what do we have for time? 9:25. Great. Next up is MLab Biosciences. So I do want to add a note. I mean, you probably observed that MLab Biosciences and Kudo Biotechnology have used the same sort of contractor for some of their work. So you'll notice a lot of their documents are very similar. But so we'll start with MLab Biosciences.
Okay.
Again, I think starting with MLab Biosciences, Sai and I included, actually, no, I think it was with Kudo. So I think for both Evolved by Nature and MLab Biosciences, you know, we heard what you had said at the last meeting and we emailed them sort of asking for this additional information about the scale of the work. And then I think starting with Kudo, we included it. We were able to sneak in and edit the application so that now that is a part of the application every time. It's tough to do that while people are in it because you really shouldn't be editing the application while people are in the middle of submitting. But we were able to fit it in, so we should have this information going forward from everyone.
Yeah, especially the PowerPoint was super helpful to contextualize all the rest of the details. So, yeah, nothing of note. Everything looks good to me.
Yeah, I thought everything looked good as well. I was amazed at the similarity between the two packages, but
Yeah, I actually thought I was in the wrong. I thought I started looking at the same company, but
yeah.
Yes, I'm working with I've been in communication with the same sort of consultant for both companies. It's nice because the formatting was very similar. I knew exactly what I was looking at. Okay, great. So I think if there are, again, no questions, concerns, comments on ABLAB, no rush, certainly. We can take more time to mull it over, but if there are no sort of additional questions, concerns, comments, we can move to vote on this one. Not until everyone feels comfortable, though.
Just one thing, I know in their emergency action plan, they should probably list Needham Public Health. This is for their internal number, but you know, their internal communications they have for poison control, you know, police, fire, DEP, state. They should probably list the Needham, you know, Public Health Department, because that's something that, you know, they may be able to. I didn't see individual contacts, and that might be that I was, because it's a.
This is in their emergency action plan?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they do list, you know, for the SAR releases, the Needham Fire Department, everything, that was fine, but and they do have. I just didn't see individual contact information. Should Needham need to contact someone in an emergency off hours? And I may
Yes, I see.
like it was in the other document for Evolve. And actually, the individual who was on the line with us, he's listed as a primary coordinator.
Yes.
For Evolve by Nature. So I just didn't see, and maybe I'm incorrect here, but I just want to make sure that we have contact information, a primary and secondary coordinator. I believe that's actually required.
Okay, on page 170, I do see someone, but it is the same person listed 3 times.
And I realize they have 8 employees,
Right.
according to, and they're going to scale that up to 12, I think it was. But perhaps somebody else,
That
they can
there
list
should be.
one other person that would be able to be, you know, that's just standard good practice, because, you know, one person is always, you know, there could always be an issue.
Well,
That's
yeah,
really-
you don't like, you know, use the win the lottery or get hit by the bus thing, right? You always want there to be a secondary.
Yes.
Okay.
I like a tertiary, but you know, I understand, you know, especially with the small scale of workforce.
All right, great. All right.
I actually had a question or concern. I didn't get a chance to look through the Kudo manual, like what they had submitted yet. If anyone else has reviewed both of them, MLAT and Kudo, what was the major differences between the two companies? I know they share a singular space, almost like they share laboratory space in some ways. And their materials, like the way that it's organized, looks very similar. But what's the difference? Is just the type of work they're doing is the difference?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
as I understand it, I think Kudo is sort of a company that other companies contract with to do like recombinant DNA production and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they were a CRO, but that was my my impression. And then M was actually doing something, so, or the, you know.
Yeah. Does that make sense, Sai?
Yes.
Okay. Any other thoughts, comments, concerns on MLab Biosciences? I know it's a lot of material, just a lot of materials to go through.
No, not much.
Okay, great. So then if everyone feels comfortable, someone could make a motion.
I make a motion to, are we calling it conditionally approved? Because then Sai is the one who actually finally does the approval once the inspection's done. So I make a motion to conditionally approve the biosafety permit for MLab Bio 10005.
I'll second that.
All right, we will do roll call. Sai,
Yes.
Justin,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
John,
Yep.
and Julie, yes. Okay, great. MLab Biosciences is conditionally approved. Let's time check it again. 9:32. We are cruising. So we can continue to Kudo biotechnology. I want to open it up. I know it was a lot of materials. So I want to open up the idea of, we can either review it now or we can review it on January 4th. I'm fine with either option. I know it was a lot of materials, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't anticipate that we would make it through all three. So I'm fine to do whatever, depending on how prepared people feel to discuss Kudo.
It looks like we have the time to do it now.
Okay.
And we got of the risk level, we got the hardest one out first. These last two are relatively low risk from a biological perspective, so it's a lot easier.
All right, great. So we can review. Kudo will be thrilled. I had kind of told them I wasn't sure what the plan was. So any initial sort of comments, questions, concerns on theirs? I know, again, a lot of their documentation is going to look very similar to MLab Biosciences.
I just thought there were some things missing from their documentation. I didn't see listed the biological agents in terms of the strains, host range, the antibiotic resistance, biosafety level, etc. I didn't see a list. Maybe I missed it.
Nope. Let me check.
Yeah, they don't really get into specifics at all. It's on page, what page is this? 9. They just write E.
Yeah, I saw
coli
that.
cell line, BHK, that's all they write. So
Yeah, I thought that was too generic.
Oh, yep, you're right. Okay.
I think we need more information.
Okay.
And then I didn't see a list of their biosafety committee members.
I believe it is in here
Yeah, I thought
somewhere.
It's on the application.
Page,
that's where I saw it. Yeah.
page 207, and then continued into 208.
So okay, I'll check that. And then they didn't list their whatever plasmids or viruses they were using either. I didn't see a list of those. And because I know I saw they mentioned lentivirus. But I didn't see it, but I didn't see a list anywhere.
Okay, so we will reach out to them then and get just sort of an additional and more detailed list of all of the biological agents that they're using. And then, they didn't add the information on biosafety level or anything like that.
And I'm just kind of trying to find, I know I because I'm bouncing back and forth. Oh, they did have, okay, there's an emergency. So they do have an alternate. Okay. Do we, and yeah, the same thing, because I don't see the phone number here, but with all of these companies, we just gonna make sure that the police and fire have these emergency contact information, and that probably should be reviewed annually.
Did you say you saw a second contact?
Yeah, well, there's an alternate. This is page 41 of this is the chemical hygiene plan.
Okay.
They list Andres as the chemical hygiene officer, the BSO, as well as the emergency coordinator, but they do have an alternate EC of Yang Feng Zhao.
Okay.
No contact information, but
Okay.
I don't know if it's elsewhere in the document.
Okay. Yeah, and I
There's-
don't see it in the emergency action plan either. It's just Andres again.
Got it.
So maybe we'll make sure that they're also listed in this, if they're the appropriate person, that they're also
Yep.
listed in the emergency action plan with a phone number.
Yes.
On 207, there's their IBC list with contact, but that's not necessarily pointing out who we would need to call.
Right.
But they have more contact information at least. So
Oh, and hold on, there is. Oh, I see what you're
but the
saying.
emergency contact person's actually not on this list.
But other than that, I mean, everything else from my perspective. I mean, obviously, it's the same company who's developing their plans, so it's going to look the same. But yeah, just the contact information is really the important thing. From
Okay, so the contact information, sort of same thing as MLab. How about sort of with sort of us needing additional information on the sort of biological agents used? Do we feel comfortable approving it sort of contingent on that information, or that we'd like that information before we can make any decisions? Ed, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, my next meeting's in about 2 weeks, right?
Yes, which we
I
can
honestly-
keep if we need it, and we can cancel it.
But maybe give a conditional approval, but I'm a
Okay.
little hesitant, but I'd go along with that.
Okay. To give conditional approval sort of upon
Yes.
receiving this additional information.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, if there are no more additional concerns and everyone feels comfortable with that, then someone can make a motion, again, if we feel ready to do that.
I had another question or concern about like the
Right.
inspectional side. 'Cause
I'll
haven't
make the motion.
determined- Oh. Okay.
No, go ahead, Si.
Okay, yeah, from the inspectional side, like we don't have a checklist yet, or kind of like a prescribed way of kind of doing this, and then they haven't obviously started work yet. So I'm wondering if the inspection should be done after the work has started, or should we do one before they start to check that they have the physical facilities are there and they have all the equipment present before we issue the permit. I guess I wanted to just tease that out a little bit.
So I will say from a regulation
initial-
perspective, we did not require an inspection upon approval of this, just from a like very technical perspective. You know, I'm happy to defer, and certainly if it's within the time frame we gave ourselves, we could fit it in, but technically we didn't fit that into the regulation language.
After they get started makes sense to me because you get to actually see what's happening and occurring. I would worry that they would anything that was not ready, they'd be like, oh, that'll be ready when we start or something like that. It's really hard to call them out then at that point. Cambridge does it delayed, and I thought it was odd the first time it happened, but it makes a lot more sense. Once they come in, people are working, they can say, that person's not wearing safety goggles. That person, that should be done in a biosafety cabinet, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, get all that. That's exactly what I was thinking as well. Yeah, okay.
You can put all this stuff in the manual, but are they actually doing it?
Mhm.
Yep. No, it's a great point for us to come in the middle of them doing work would be fantastic. Though I know everybody is always on their best behavior when the inspectors come from personal experience. I think, Jason, did you just raise your hand again? I'm gonna allow you to talk because I can't tell if that was a glitch or not.
Nope, not a glitch.
Okay.
So my question is, we've been conditionally approved waiting the inspection, but you want us to start before the inspection. So what, where are we at? I guess.
Yeah, we need to officially, Sai or myself will be in communication with you to actually officially issue the permit, which is just an administrative component at this point. But otherwise you are approved to work and we'll be in touch with you about an inspection at a later time.
Okay, great. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Great. Thanks, Jason. All right.
Another thing, just to procedurally with the for what we're doing, the floor plans that they submit, can we make sure that the um, police and or fire have a copy of the floor plans, just like they do with schools and other things? You know, it is a valuable resource to be able to have at the ready.
Absolutely. I think, you know, certainly this could be, we can reach out to them to discuss the procedure going forward with them, but we also do, I don't know if they actually, I know fire is, I think, part of the online inspection process, but we can also pass it to them so that they definitely have the document. I don't know about police.
Fire
Yeah.
is more important to me, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be easier to pass it on to fire, and they have access to this permitting website as well, so they have
Okay.
access to all of this. But I think it's easier if we give them a copy of it so they can access it quicker rather than trying to search for it on here because it is somewhat cumbersome to
Sure.
find stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great idea because I think honestly, the information and the emergency action plan and all of that is really great, but it, you know, like Sai mentioned earlier, there are multiple companies that are all sitting within these buildings and all of them have different plans and layouts and agents, and it's really important for them to have the floor plan to address the emergency properly.
Yeah.
This might be a naive question. Do the landlords that operate these like multi-company incubators or anything like that, do they have any utility to us as like a contact? Do they collate any of this information themselves, or are they purely just the landlord and then we're managing each company directly? Like, I'm curious, like, I think Justin, to your point earlier, where it's like, you know, the multiple companies, like if the whole building lit on fire, is it easier to like call the landlord and have them coordinate, or I don't know, or like the fire department could call them? I don't know if they'd be useless or not.
I mean, my experience is, I mean, it depends upon the level of involvement. Like Lab Central, John, is
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was
essentially-
thinking. Yeah.
That's essentially managed the like Bullfinch. They have somebody because they actually offer safety services as part of the program. So a place like Lab Central, it's 100%. They're very helpful and they're very involved. Just a run of the mill guy who owns a building and signs a lease for, they're probably not going to be as useful from a emergency perspective. Now, granted, should we have that information? Yes, we should have the building's information. That's going to be like a fire should maintain that, or emergency management or LEPC. And so I don't know who the landlord is in this whether they're doing any sort of central maintenance like a Lab Central or not. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
that's a great question. I assume that there is some sort of communication between like planning and like the planning board and fire and all of that and the landlord. But yeah, like, I don't know, in the case of an emergency, I don't know how that would actually in reality play out.
Yeah.
Because they
Yeah,
do
that's
have
fair.
in the lobby of Lab Central, they actually have a vault that actually has like a book that Cambridge Fire can pull open. All the floor plans are there, all the agents that are used on each floor, and so that is a valuable resource, especially with a building with multiple tenants doing multiple things. That's probably less so of the Biosafety Committee, but more so of the LEPC. But something to.
That's handy though. Maybe that is something that this building could use, because it seems like there are a few companies here, and I think in the layouts, I can see that there are a couple of more companies who look like I'm hoping are not there yet. I'm gonna do a little investigating on that to see.
Yeah, I will as well. I think some of them are presently there, but we have, because I saw the signs up when I was there inspecting the kitchen for the building, so there might be already operating, or maybe it's just office space. I'm not sure if they're started the actual like laboratory side of things.
So maybe I'll do a little prodding on that just to double check that they know we exist.
Yeah, and I see there's a fire alarm permit for, at least for Evolve by Nature, that was pulled by the landlord. So like the fire department has been there, and those inspections are being done by the fire department.
Okay, great. All right. I forget where we were. I don't think we made a motion yet on Kudo to conditionally approve. So if someone can.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we conditionally approve Pudo. And final approval depending
Second that.
on whether when it.
All right. And Justin, you seconded?
Yes.
All right. All right, we'll do roll call again. Cy,
Yes.
Justin,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Julie, yes. Fabulous. Okay, thank you everybody for reviewing all of that material. As they kept coming in, I was like, wow, I'm giving quite a reading assignment here. So at the moment, we do not need to have the scheduled January 4th meeting, because we don't have any applications. And if we did have applications, I don't know that we would fit them in between, reviewing them and compiling them and all of that. I doubt that we will. I haven't heard from anybody. So at the moment, we can cancel that scheduled January 4th meeting. And I will be in touch with the additional information, and if we get any additional applications in from perhaps those companies that we know exist there. So unless there are any other sort of thoughts people have, we can make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right, roll call again. Lots of roll call. Cy,
Aye. Yes.
Justin,
Aye.
Ed,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Julie, yes. All right, thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.
Good holiday, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.
Nice. Yeah.